Hi guys, welcome to Module 5 of Personal Development. And we are going to talk about the different aspects of your life. Adolescence is a time of many physiological and psychosocial changes. And this also includes our response to different stressors. Because aminin naman natin, 'di ba? Ang stress ay normal na nangyayari sa atin. It's a fact of life. However, the type of stress that we encounter and how we respond to it also changes throughout our lifespan. So, what is stress? Stress is basically our body's response to all the stressors that is happening in our life, whether it's the amount of work that you need to do as a student, the unforeseen circumstances that would occur, like the internet connection going down. But still, we need to cope with whatever situation we are in. And that's what we mean by coping. We try to manage the circumstances that we are in, such as expending effort. Okay? Meron tayong ginagawang paraan para masolusyonan kung ano man yung nakapagbibigay sa atin ng stress. The thing is, Lazarus has identified that our response to stress could either be a flight or fight response. When you say flight or fight response, it's either you're going to approach the problem head on, you're going to do something about it, or you're going to avoid it. Okay? So that's where the emotion focus and problem focus coping comes in. If you're the type of person na pag merong binigay na assignment si teacher or there's an asynchronous activity and you decide to work on it immediately, that's an example of a problem-focused coping. When we say problem-focused coping, this is approaching the problem head-on. You work on resolving the conflict. You work on relieving the stress that you have. For example, you submitted your work ahead of time. You were able to recite "Don't Quit" instead of just procrastinating or putting it at the back of your head. That's what we mean by problem-focused coping. It could also include relationship problems. So, for example, you had a misunderstanding with a friend or with your girlfriend or boyfriend or your partner. Basically, when you try to resolve the issue, it's an example of a problem-focused coping. We have the emotion-focused coping. This is the kind of coping wherein you respond to stress in an emotional manner. For example, you have a performance task that you need to work on, but you're thinking, ay, ang haba pa naman ng oras. Meron pa akong 2 linggo para gawin ito. Okay, so what you will do is that you're going to procrastinate. Miss, question, bakit siya tinawag ng emotion focus? It's because you rely on your emotions. Hindi ko pa feel gawin. Parang mas gusto kong gawin manood muna ng Netflix. Parang mas feel kong mag-chill. Those are examples of emotion-focused coping. Now, what makes it harmful is that you have this tendency to avoid the problem, to avoid the stressors. And that's an example of the avoidant coping. Then we have hassles. These are small, irritating, frustrating events that we sometimes view or interpret as something that is stressful. So what are hassles? These are small, irritating, and frustrating events that when it piles up, somehow we interpret it as something that is stressful. Example, nakalimutan mo yung cellphone mo sa bahay kaso nakasakay ka na ng tren. Naglalaro ka ng ML kaso tumatawag si girlfriend. Inutusan ka ng nanay mo habang nakikipagkwentuhan ka sa mga kaibigan mo. Those are hassles. Siyempre, ang buhay ng tao, hindi lang naman yan puro hassle. Meron din tayong tinatawag na uplift. And when we say uplift, these are small, pleasurable, uplifting, and satisfying events in our lives. Example, yung bored ka na sa klase, kaso nakita mong dumaan si crush. Diba? Bigla ka nakapasmile. That's an uplift. Naghahalungkat ka ng bag mo. Okay? Pagtingin mo doon sa zipper, may nakita kang 500 pesos. That's an uplift. Of course, sigurado ka bang bag mo yon? So, yun yung mga maliliit na bagay. Hindi mo ina-expect meron kang refund na makukuha. Or, nag-message sa'yo si crush. That's an uplift. The thing is, there are also major life events that could potentially give someone stress. Example, yung mga kinakasal, those who are going to get married, they have to decide on a lot of things, and somehow it adds stress to their lives. On a more somber note, a major life event could also include something that is negative, like a family member dying, or parents, husband and wives getting annulment or being separated. Now, research has identified that between male and female, it's actually the women or the female who experiences the negative impact of stress, which could include depression, anxiety, or even somatic problems. Miss, question, anong frustration? So, Miss, para kasing magkaparehas yung hassle sa frustration. No. The big difference there really is that when we talk about frustration, you have a particular goal in mind. Okay? You're thinking that this is what I wanted. Pero, things would keep on popping up that prevents you from achieving that goal. For example, you want to graduate with honors. Kaso, meron talagang isang subject na papalya kung saan hindi aabot yung grade mo. That's an example of frustration. Another example, uwing-uwi ka na, you want to go home immediately after your class. Ang kaso, biglang umulan. You get frustrated. In a research, they found out that between Monday and Friday, apparently, mas stressful pala ang Monday. Because it's a start of the week and you have a lot of things on your mind. You have a lot of things to accomplish as compared to Friday wherein it's a lot easier to wake up and just go through the day because you know at the back of your head it's gonna be the weekend and you will not be bombarded with any other works. The thing is, when frustration lasts a long time, that's when burnout occurs. When we say burnout, this is physically being worn out or your body is literally exhausted. Okay? You experience that feeling wherein pagkagising mo pa lang sa umaga, tinatanong mo na yung sarili mo, papasok pa ba ako? Yan. Kapag yan ay mga naiisip mo, it is a sure sign that you are already burned out. Apparently, hindi lang yung mga nagtatrabaho ang nagkakaroon ng burnout. Even the students, kayo. So, kapag palagi kayong na-frustrate sa ginagawa ninyo, and then that's when the negative thinking or the negative thoughts come in. Worth it pa ba itong ginagawa ko? May patutunguhan pa ba itong mga pinaghihirapan ko? Now, the thing with stress, it could also be a disabling condition. When we encounter a very traumatic experience, stress would also occur. And this is where the PTSD, or what we call the post-traumatic stress disorder, comes in. So post-traumatic stress disorder is a disabling condition that results from personally experiencing an event that involves actual or threatened death or serious harm or injury. A person would also experience PTSD if they actually witness this event. Now, when you experience something that involves you choosing between two or more possibilities or options that you actually want, This is where conflict occurs. There are three kinds of conflict: the approach conflict, the avoidance conflict, and the approach avoidance conflict. Just try to remember that when we talk about approach conflict, you like both choices. For example, after graduating senior high school, your parents made you choose between a new phone or a trip to Hong Kong. That's a conflict. Now, when we talk about avoidance conflict, it's choosing between two disagreeable choices or consequences. For example, pinapili ka ng magulang mo, palo o maghuhugas ka ng pinggan. And the third type of conflict is the approach avoidance conflict. So this is a single situation that has both positive and negative consequences. For example, being promoted in a job, diba? You have the prestige, your salary will increase, but it also involves you being more stressed, clocking in more work hours. That's approach avoidance conflict. Now, there are 5 ways of dealing with conflict. The first one is what we call avoidance. So, this is the time wherein you find conflicts as unpleasant. So, ang ginagawa mo, you just avoid it. Iniiwasan mo. Hindi mo na lang pinapansin. Or hinahayaan mo na lang na mangyari yun. That's avoidance. Example, someone talk about you behind your back. So since you don't want to confront this person, you just decided to keep your peace. Sometimes avoidance is a good conflict management. It becomes more detrimental because hindi na-address yung issue. The second one is what we call accommodation. These are people who doesn't like conflicts. So what they would do is that they would just give in order for the disagreement to go away. So ito yung mga comments ninyo na, sige na nga, ikaw nang magaling. That's accommodation. The thing is, when we give in to what they want, it doesn't really solve the problem. The third one is what we call domination. In this conflict, individuals would go to any length just to win. Kahit sabihin nating maging aggressive sila or manipulative, as long as sila ang mananalo or they get their own way, that's being dominating. The fourth one is what we call compromise. In some cases, people understand that we have our own needs, so they are going to use compromise and in some instances try to manipulate the situation. The thing with compromise is that this is the style wherein you find the middle ground by asking both parties to concede. Meron kayong i-give up doon sa mga desires ninyo so that a solution could be agreed upon. The fifth one is what we call integration, or sometimes marketers would consider this as collaboration. This is where individuals try to resolve the conflict so that it could please both partners. So it's more of like finding a win-win situation. Miss, question, ano ang pagkakaiba ng compromise sa integration? When we say compromise, you are actually giving up something to accommodate other people. And when we talk about integration, you try to find solutions that both parties will agree upon, which will make them feel both happy. The thing is, with emotions, as we have discussed in Handout 2, it's neither right nor wrong. But it's not as simple as that. Sometimes we also feel anxious, and that's where anxiety sets in. This is an unpleasant state characterized by feelings of uneasiness and apprehension, as well as increased physiological arousal. Usually, you feel this anxiety by the increased heart rate, those butterflies in the stomach, that uneasy feeling na parang merong mangyayaring masama, or you're just not that comfortable. That is anxiety. In order for us to combat stress, we need to have this characteristic of hardiness. It's actually a combination of three personality traits, which is control, commitment, and challenge. When we become hardy, it is actually a way of protecting or buffering us from the harmful effects of stressful situations. When we say commitment, this is where the person knows and pursues his goals and values. So if you have a particular goal in mind and you push through with it, you look for ways to achieve that goal, that is being committed. The second one is challenge. He actively confronts and solves problem situations. So nagiging matigas daw tayo or nagiging matatag tayo kapag we accept all the challenges that comes our way. Hindi natin iniiwasan. Hindi tayo gumagamit ng emotion-focused coping mechanism. And the last one is control. This is the belief that his actions can directly affect how situations would turn out. Now, you have to understand that I've been handling a lot of clients lately, and one of the cause of their stress are the things that they cannot control. Pilit nilang hinahanapan ng paraan para makontrol nila yung isang sitwasyon. But the thing is, there are some things in our lives that are really just beyond our control. The thing is, there are two ways of looking at control. It could be through the internal locus of control or the external locus of control. And when you say internal locus of control, this is the belief that you are basically in control of life's events and that what you do influence the situations. So for example, you encountered a challenge or a problem. You have this belief, may paniniwala ka sa sarili mo na kakayanin mo yung problema na yun. For example, you want to become successful, you want to become a millionaire by the age of 25 years old. When you say internal locus of control, you have this belief in yourself that you will be able to reach that goal, no matter how hard or trying the times could be. Now, when we talk about the external locus of control, this is the belief that chance and luck mostly determine what happens and that you do not have any influence over it. So, let's go back to that example. By the age of 25 years old, you want to become a millionaire. The thing is, if your focus or if you have this external locus of control, laging labas sa'yo ang pagiging ang pagkakaroon mo ng oportunidad na makuha yung goal na yon. Example, gusto mong maging milyonaryo by 25 years old. Anong gagawin mo? Tataya ako sa loto. Siswertehin ako doon. Mag-aasawa ako ng mayaman. That's external locus of control. The thing is, personality trait is also an aspect of yourself. Example, being an optimist or a pessimist. When we say optimist, these are people who believes and expect that good things will come their way. So, this is a mug of water. How do you perceive it? Is it half empty or half full? If you look at it as half full, you are generally an optimist. You tend to believe that good things will come your way. But if you look at it as half empty, you are generally a pessimist, wherein you expect and believe that bad things will happen. Now, thinking positively and avoiding negative thoughts are good strategies when we are trying to handle stress in just about any circumstances. And just like what Professor Kelly McGonigal has explained to us, social support is a good buffer against stress. Social support refers to three factors. First is that it provides strong social attachments. Somehow we get to relate to these people around us. When we need to seek help, dito papasok yung we get to exchange helpful resources with them. So when we are feeling down, when we need someone to talk to, when we need someone who's going to support us, we could rely to them. And the last one is that we get to have this feeling or making appraisals that we have supportive relationships and behaviors. So, ibig sabihin nito, nagkakaroon tayo ng feeling na importante rin tayo because we have them in our lives. Now, the thing is, loneliness and lack of social support were major factors that contribute to becoming ill and developing psychosomatic symptoms. So basically, kung wala tayong kaibigan, kung wala tayong mga taong maaasahan, dito papasok yung mga problema natin, katulad ng kalungkutan at iba pang mga problema like depression. Social support is reported to be one of the most important coping methods that individuals use to decrease the effects of stressful situations and cope with psychosomatic problems. So this is what Professor Kelly McGonigal has been explaining to us in her video. So, how to become happy or how to develop subjective well-being. Paano nga ba tayo magiging masaya? Number 1, choose your parents wisely. In other words, hindi mo magagawa yon. So what we need to do is that we need to surround ourselves with people who are happy. Kung bugnutin ang inyong mga magulang, ang tendency kasi nito, magiging bugnutin din kayo. So, since we cannot choose our parents, we need to find friends who are happy, who could give us happiness, who is pleasant and interesting. Second, if you want to be happy in the long run, you need to think for long-term goals. Yes, masaya yung manood lang ng Netflix magdamag. Masaya yung maglaro lang ng Mobile Legends ng maghapon. But the thing is, it's temporary. That happiness that you are feeling is only temporary. What really matters is you visioning yourself. What are you gonna do in the long run? You need to spend time working on things that will provide you stability and happiness in the long run. Third, you need to develop strong social relationships. Meaning, you need to look for a partner or a mate that is actually similar than you. You need to stay in close contact with your friends and your relatives. And you need to make sure that you get to develop close relationships. And fourth, the last one, you need to participate in activity that seems to be important. Remember, happiness isn't something that happens to you. It is something that you make happen. So that ends Handout 5. I hope you study for the quiz later. Bye-bye.